In this Copilot Unplugged video, I'm going to show you one of the most effective ways that you can get better outputs from Copilot when you're asking data questions to a semantic model. Now, this is specifically a tip for semantic model developers and not users, just so that you know. Let's look at an example. Let's say that you are, for example, using Copilot and you want to ask a question like, what are the total sales for Canada? Copilot's going to use some context to generate an output and show us that output then in the Copilot pane. And let's say that when we look at this output, this is a bit different from what we expect. We see that Copilot is using the appropriate measure, but when we click on country, it's using the store country. Now this is interesting because we have multiple country columns in our data set. We have customer country and we have store country. Now, what can we do to ensure that unless we explicitly mention otherwise, it's going to use the customer country? Now, obviously, there's a number of things we could do. We could tell users to be more specific with their prompts. We could delete the store country column from the model. We could rename it to make it more specific. But none of these three things are ideal because, for example, if we rename it, that'll break it in downstream reports, which is inconvenient. Could be confusing because it might not align with our naming conventions. If we remove it, we can't use it in other reports and analyses. And we can't just rely on users to be very specific with their prompts all the time. We want to try to make our semantic model as robust as we can. So what else can we do? Well, we could basically turn off that column for Copilot to use it when it's answering the data question. Now, there are multiple ways that we can do this. For example, if we go to the country column in store, we could hide it. And if we hide it, then Copilot is not going to use it to answer that data question. So if we go back and we ask it again, so okay, what are the total sales this time for Australia? Let's say I'm going to use a whole bunch of question marks just to avoid it using the cache. Copilot typically caches results for 72 hours. If the context is the same, it'll just give you the cached result. So now it's going to think, and it's going to use, in this case, the customer country. So specifically, it's using the hierarchy from the customer table. So this is good. Now it's using the appropriate field, specifically the hierarchy in this case. Now, this could still be suboptimal because let's say a user wants to connect to the model, either in the Power BI service or in Excel, and they want to do their own report, do their own analysis. They cannot view these hidden columns. So this is something that's specific to Power BI Desktop that you can mark view hidden and you can see the hidden columns, but you cannot do this in Excel and you cannot do this in the Power BI service. So what do we do if that is the case? Well, if that's the case, obviously we have to unhide the column and then we have to do something else. We have to disable this just for Copilot. So we go in the modeling tab, Q&A setup, and then synonyms. And we have the option here to include stuff in Q&A, which is also included in Copilot. So if we go to store, we could turn off that entire table for Q&A and then close this. So now we've disabled the store table for Copilot. And if we ask it again, what are the sales for France this time? Again, using a bunch of question marks to avoid it using the cache. And Copilot will then return us a result back. In this case, again, using the customer country field. So the store is still unhidden. This time it's using the customer country field. And in other future questions that we're going to ask it, it will only consider the customer country. It will ignore everything from the store in this case. Now, of course, this could be a problem if users want to be able to ask for the store country or the customer country. In that case, we just simply have to try to tell users to be more specific, but we could also use descriptions and synonyms and other information to try to point Copilot to the customer country column as a default. So that's always an option, but it's not going to be 100% reliable. If you want to 100% reliably disable a field from Copilot using it in this Ask Data Questions experience, then you can either hide it or you can disable it in the Q&A setup. So the last way that you could also hide something from Copilot is actually by using the IsPrivate property. So you could actually set the property in private using, for example, a TMDL script or tabular editor. And if you set IsPrivate to true, then the table, which we can now see, is going to disappear from the client tool. So it's no longer going to be visible. Now, you would only use this option in very specific circumstances. In general, I don't recommend that you do this. In general, you should just use is hidden, so marking it as hidden, or you should disable it using Q&A setup. So in total, those are the 3 different ways that you can disable fields from Copilot. Number 1, hiding them. Number 2, disabling them using Q&A setup. And number 3, by using the IsPrivate table property. This is really important to do, so you limit the scope of what Copilot has available. You only want to expose to Copilot the fields that you want people to be asking data questions about, because the more fields that are exposed, the more likelihood that Copilot is going to return unexpected results. So this is one of the simplest, easiest, and most effective ways, reducing that scope, of ensuring that Copilot is going to produce useful results. That's it for now. I'll see you in the next one.